Is this some kind of joke? The voice, sharp with the arrogance of a fresh MIT degree, cut through the humid, metallic air of the engine room. Bryce, the lead civilian engineer, clipboard in hand, stared at the old man who had just been escorted down the ladder. We have a catastrophic harmonic resonance in the primary turbine shaft. A problem 3 separate diagnostic teams and a proprietary AI have failed to isolate. And they send me this. Harold Cross, 82 years old, simply stood there. He wore dark blue overalls, clean but softened and faded from decades of faithful service. They hung loosely on his thin frame. His hands, though wrinkled and mapped with the veins of a long life, were steady. He offered no reaction, his calm gray eyes taking in the scene, the anxious faces of the uniformed sailors, the chaotic array of disconnected diagnostic tablets and coiled fiber optic cables, and the heart of the ship itself, the silent monolithic gas turbine engine. It was the newest, most advanced power plant in the Navy's surface fleet, and it was as dead as a stone. The young engineer Bryce scoffed and turned to the nervous-looking junior officer who had brought Harold aboard the USS Reliance. "Lieutenant, I appreciate the Admiral's concern, but we are past the point of folksy wisdom. We need computational analysts, not a museum piece." He gestured dismissively at Harold. "License and registration and get off the bike now, sir," another engineer quipped under his breath, mocking the absurdity of the situation. The small knot of civilian contractors chuckled. Harold's gaze remained placid, unfazed by the insult. He took a slow, deliberate breath, the air thick with the smell of ozone and cooled steel. He was an island of stillness in a sea of frantic energy. The massive engine room, usually a deafening symphony of controlled power, was filled with a tense, unnatural silence, broken only by the irritating hum of emergency lighting and the drip of condensation from an overhead pipe. Bryce took a step closer, invading Harold's personal space. He was a good foot taller, radiating the boundless confidence of a man who believed every problem could be rendered into an algorithm. "Look, Grandpa," he began, his voice dripping with condescension. "This is a multi-billion-dollar warship. The integrated power system is more complex than the entire Apollo program. We have terabytes of performance data we're trying to parse. What exactly do you think you're going to do?" For the first time, Harold moved. Slowly, deliberately, he knelt and unlatched a small, plain steel toolbox. It was old, dented, and bore the scars of countless jobs in less than ideal conditions. The engineers exchanged amused glances. From it, Harold retrieved a single tool. It was a wrench, about 10 inches long, but it shone with the soft, unmistakable luster of gold. A wave of disbelief, followed by open laughter, rippled through the civilian team. "Oh, this is rich," Bryce laughed, shaking his head. "A golden wrench. Are you going to magically tap the engine back to life? Is that the big plan?" He turned to the assembled sailors. "This is what happens when you let sentimental brass override procedure. We have protocols. We have diagnostic trees that account for every possible variable. We have run spectral analysis, thermal imaging, lubrication viscosity tests, and a full electronic system sweep. The power output drops to 0 after exactly 74 seconds of operation, with no corresponding error codes from any of the 1,000 sensors in the system. It's a ghost in the machine." Harold rose slowly, the gold wrench held loosely in his hand. His eyes met Bryce's. "Machines don't have ghosts," he said, his voice quiet but resonant, carrying easily through the cavernous space. "They just have secrets." The simplicity of the statement, delivered with such calm authority, momentarily silenced the engineer. But Bryce's ego quickly reasserted itself. "Secrets we can't find with $1 million worth of diagnostic equipment, but you're going to find with a shiny trinket. I have a team of the best minds from General Dynamics and GE Marine standing by. We are working the problem. You are a distraction." Harold's gaze drifted from the engineer to the massive turbine. He could feel it, the subtle tension in the ship's deck plates, the deep, unnatural quiet that spoke of a caged giant. He had known engines like this his entire life. He had helped design their ancestors, the power plants for the nuclear submarines that prowled the silent deep during the Cold War. He knew that for all their layers of modern complexity, at their core they were still machines of fire and steel, of pressure and rotation. They had a rhythm, a voice, and this one was screaming in silence. 74 seconds, Harold mused, more to himself than to anyone else. He took a step toward the turbine housing, his worn boots making no sound on the diamond plate decking. He ignored the engineers, the officers, the entire spectacle of disbelief focused on him. He was alone with the machine now. "That's what I said," Bryce snapped, his patience gone. "Did you not hear me? We've monitored the fuel flow, the exhaust temperature, the rotational velocity. I need you to start the engine, Harold said, his back now to the engineer. The request was so audacious, so contrary to every safety protocol, that it stunned the room into absolute silence. Running a damaged, unpredictable multi-million-dollar engine was unthinkable. Absolutely not, Bryce declared, his face flushing with anger. Are you insane? The harmonic resonance could tear the shaft from its moorings. It could rupture the housing. We would be risking the entire propulsion system. You're not going to solve the problem by looking at data on a screen, Harold replied calmly, his eyes tracing the lines of the engine casing. The secret isn't in the numbers, it's in the sound. As Bryce bristled, ready to order the old man physically removed, Harold's mind drifted for just a second. The gleaming gold wrench in his hand felt warm, familiar. He wasn't seeing the sterile gray engine room of the USS Reliance anymore. For a fleeting moment he was 25 years old again, submerged 1,000 feet beneath the icy waters of the Barents Sea. He was a young machinist's mate on the USS Seawolf, a nuclear submarine on a covert mission at the height of the Cold War. The air was thick with the smell of recycled air and fear. An alarm was blaring, a high, panicked shriek. The sub's main coolant pump had seized, and the reactor was threatening to scram. The boat's commander, a legend named Captain Davenport, had stood beside him in the cramped, sweltering engineering space. Davenport had handed him a wrench, identical to the one he now held. The schematics are wrong, son, the captain had said, his voice a gravelly whisper over the din. Forget the book. Listen to the machine. Tell me what it needs. That wrench wasn't gold. It was brass, polished to a high shine from constant use, a tool passed down from the chief who had mentored Davenport himself. It was a symbol, a reminder that some problems required not just knowledge, but a deeper, more intuitive understanding, an intimacy with the machine. Hey, are you listening to me? Bryce's sharp voice snapped Harold back to the present. The young engineer's face was a mask of fury. I am the lead engineer on this project. I am giving you a direct order to step away from the turbine. Lieutenant, escort this man out of my engine room. Now. But the junior officer, a young ensign named Miller, hesitated. He had seen the look in the old man's eyes. It was a look of profound, unshakable confidence. And there was something else. A flicker of recognition. He'd spent a night shift last month digitizing old service records for the archives. The name Harold Cross felt familiar. He remembered a heavily redacted file, full of commendations signed by admirals who were now historical figures. While Bryce fumed, another figure in the room made a move. Chief Petty Officer Davis, a man whose face was a roadmap of 25 years of sea duty, had been watching the entire exchange from a discreet distance. He had seen enough arrogant civilian contractors in his career to recognize a train wreck in the making. He also knew that admirals didn't dispatch mysterious old men to their most advanced warships on a whim. With a subtle nod to Ensign Miller, Davis slipped behind a bank of control consoles, pulled out his phone, and keyed in a number. The call went directly to a secure line, 200 miles away in a quiet wood-paneled office at the Pentagon. Admiral Frank Sterling picked up the phone. Sterling, Admiral, it's Chief Davis on the Reliance, the CPO said, his voice low and urgent. Sir, your man is here, Mr. Cross. I know, Chief. Is he on site? He is, Admiral, but there's a problem. The lead civilian engineer, Bryce, well, sir, he's treating Mr. Cross with extreme disrespect. He's calling him Grandpa, mocking his tools, and has just ordered him to be removed from the engine room. He's refusing to cooperate. There was a moment of dead silence on the line. When Admiral Sterling spoke again, his voice was dangerously cold. Put the lieutenant on the phone, Chief, the one who escorted Mr. Cross aboard. Davis quickly and discreetly passed the phone to Ensign Miller, who paled when he heard the Admiral's voice. Sir, Ensign, what is your assessment of the situation? Miller swallowed hard. Sir, the civilian team is hostile. They're convinced Mr. Cross is a waste of time. Engineer Bryce is about to have him thrown out. But, sir, there's something about Mr. Cross. He's calm. He knows what he's doing. I can feel it. I see, Sterling said. Ensign, your orders are as follows. You are to prevent by any means necessary Mr. Cross from being removed from that engine room. You are to place the lead engineer, Bryce, under your direct authority. Cite Naval Vessel Operational Security Protocol. He is a civilian contractor on a commissioned warship, and he is now interfering with a priority directive from my office. Is that understood? Sir. Yes, sir, Miller stammered, his mind reeling. And Ensign, the Admiral added, his voice like cracking ice, tell that arrogant child that if he lays a hand on Harold Cross or impedes his work in any way, I will personally fly out there and have him airlifted to a leaky raft in the middle of the Atlantic. Do you copy? "Crystal clear, Admiral," Miller said, a new steel in his own voice. As the ensign hung up, Admiral Sterling swiveled in his high-backed leather chair and faced the large monitor on his wall. "Computer, pull up the service record for Cross, Harold G., Chief Warrant Officer 5, retired." The screen flickered to life. Most of the file was covered in thick black red action bars, but the parts that were visible were astonishing. Project Chimera, lead propulsion designer. Operation Silent Serpent, reactor incident averted. Commendation for extraordinary ingenuity. Sterling leaned back. Harold Cross wasn't just a genius, he was a legend, a ghost, a man whose entire career was a masterclass in solving the unsolvable. He had personally overseen the design of the Ancestor to the very engine that was now baffling the Navy's brightest minds. Back in the engine room of the USS Reliance, the standoff was reaching its climax. "Lieutenant, did you hear my order?" Bryce demanded, his voice rising to a shout. "Remove this man." Ensign Miller stepped forward,